Awesome. All right. Well, it's good to see you, Robin.
Good to see you.
I'm gonna mute you real quick. And awesome. So we'll start seated. So before we actually start, actually, I lied. We are going to start seated, but before we start, I'd like you to plant your theraband across the front of your space. It's not going to be near the ultimate top. It's more about, I don't know, a third down from the top of your space. When we get to that point, we're going to lay down over it. So you want to make sure there's enough space for your head in front and then your shoulder blades, and then this will be just below your shoulder blades. We don't need that now. It's just so we don't have a weird transition a little later that we're planting that there. And then your blocks, if you have them and would like them, they're just going to be somewhere near the top of your space where your head would go, just so they're out of the way for now. And if you are using a strap instead of a theraband, you'll put your strap there instead of the theraband. Me, in the meantime, I'm just going to put that over there so it's out of the way. And then once we've got all our setup, we're going to sit on our blanket, or maybe you're sitting on a block, or maybe you're sitting on your cushion. And the first thing that we're just going to start with doing is finding some articulation in the joints. So make sure you're in a comfortable seat, removing any flesh from underneath your sit bones if you'd like. And then you'll soften your gaze or close your eyes completely and just take a moment to notice what you notice in the body now, how it's feeling, how you're breathing, maybe even where your mind happens to be at this moment. And we're using our practice today to just sort of get things moving first, and then we're going to strengthen and stabilize things. And then we'll see how that translates back into movement a little later. So to begin, let's go ahead and open our arms out to the right and to the left as though you were in some Victorian drama for some reason and you're wearing a giant hoop skirt. Drop your right ear over towards your right shoulder. And then with your left hand, we can maybe reach it a little further left. You might start to flex through the wrists so your fingers point up towards the sky. You might continue to drip the fingertips down towards the floor. And then notice if you want to draw your left hand a little further behind you, if you want to drop your right chin or your chin towards your right shoulder, or maybe reach your chin up towards the sky. But you're just taking a couple of moments here to breathe and just check in and see how the scalene muscles of the neck are doing. If you're happy as you are right here, just stay here. Or perhaps you bend your left elbow and bring your left hand to the back of your pelvis. Again, the right ear drops to the right. Maybe you draw your right, or rather left shoulder back, and you just continue to pause and breathe. And then very gently, you'll go ahead and reach the left arm back to the left, draw the right hand to the side of the right face, and then draw the head back up to center. Go ahead and release the right hand down and just notice if you notice anything different between the right and the left side. And then when you're ready, you'll drop your left ear towards your left shoulder. You'll reach out through your right fingertips. Maybe the fingers just hover a bit off the floor. Maybe you flex through the wrist. So now the right fingers reach up towards the sky. Again, maybe you draw the right hand back behind you just a little bit. Maybe you tip your chin towards your left shoulder. Maybe you tip your chin up towards the sky. Again, we're just breathing. You can choose to stay as you are, or maybe perhaps bend the right elbow, bring the right hand to the back of the pelvis, and just take a couple of breaths there, maybe drawing the right shoulder blade back onto the back. Fantastic. As you're ready, we'll gently release. The right hand comes back to the right. The left hand comes to the left cheek. You push your head back to center and then gently release your hand. From here, let's just go ahead and look over your right shoulder and see if you can draw the back of your head towards your left shoulder. And then you'll inhale and come through center and go to the other side. So back of the head towards the right shoulder, face towards the left shoulder. And then you'll inhale and come back through center. And you'll do that one more time. And you're just noticing your range of motion here, how this is feeling to work through the neck muscles. Fantastic. Last time, coming over to look over the left shoulder. And then you'll inhale back through center. This time you'll drop your chin to your chest. And as your chin comes to your chest, I want you to see if you can squeeze your shoulder blades onto your back body. So you'll feel maybe a little bit more pressure in the back of the neck, the shoulder blades. And then you'll inhale and you'll lift your chin up towards the sky. And you'll just take a moment to pause and breathe there. Next exhalation, chin comes back towards the chest. Maybe you hug the shoulder blades together on your back body. And then on your next in-breath, you'll reach the chin forward and maybe up, and just notice what that feels like. Nice work. Next inhalation, go ahead and come to center, and you're just going to bring your hands to rest somewhere on your thighs, and we'll just take a few slow head circles to the left. And you've just got 3 in each direction, and I want you to just notice what it feels like to move your head around. Maybe you're just moving your chin, maybe you're circling from the crown of your head, but just notice what the 3 head circles feel like to the left. And you're just taking your time and paying attention to the shoulders, letting them soften away from the ears. After you've done 3 one direction, you'll come through center, then switch sides. And again, we're not really in a rush. We're not in a hurry. We're giving ourselves time to settle, time to awaken and connect with the different parts of our being so that we can more fully know how we'd like to respond, how we'd like to act. Okay. After your 3rd circle to the right, you'll go ahead and come through center with the head. Now, this one is weird. You're going to just draw your chin straight back and then let your chin come forward. And it's very small, but your chin comes forward and back. And we're just trying to move around along our axis and atlas. Those are the 2 top cervical spine bones. And so it's a tiny movement. And this will be our last one. From there, you'll go ahead and relax, draw your shoulders up towards your ears, and then drop your shoulders down. And you'll just do about 4 of those. So inhaling maybe as the arms come up, and exhaling as they go down. And last one. Okay. From here, if you'd like to switch the cross of your ankles, switch the cross of your ankles. Otherwise, you can stay exactly as you are. And then we'll just draw our shoulders forward, and we'll draw our shoulders back. And you've just got 4 of those, and you're just paying attention to what that feels like. So the shoulder blades come together on the back, and then they widen along the back, and the shoulders come forward. Okay. Fantastic. Last one. Awesome. From here, let's cross our left arm over, right arm on top. Hug your arm in, and then start to look over your left shoulder once again. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. You're pressing your left forearm into the crook of your right arm. You're pulling it in, and you're just noticing what's happening in the back of the body. Next in breath, come through center, arms open wide, maybe flex through the wrists. And then exhale, we'll switch sides. So wrap your right arm towards the left, and then look towards your right. And again, you press the right arm into the crook of the left arm. You pull the crook of the left arm in towards, I guess, the back left space. Next in breath, go ahead and open both arms out. This time, bring your hands back behind you, interlace your fingers at the webbing, draw your shoulders up towards your ears, shoulder blades together on your back, and then you can start to reach your hands away from you. And some of you might drop your chin to your chest again and see how that feels on the back of your neck. Maybe hug the shoulders together on the back just a bit more. Fantastic. Go ahead and release that. And now you're just going to take your shoulder circles. And just notice what that feels like. If you hear any little snaps, crackles, or pops. And after you've done 4 one way, go ahead and switch the direction of your circles. Okay. Fantastic. From here, go ahead and come to stillness. We'll make little fists with our hands, bring our hands to the temples, and then just draw your elbows towards each other and then away. And you've got 4 of these. And you're really seeing if you can touch the elbows in front of you and then squeeze the shoulder blades together on your back body. Okay. Awesome sauce. We'll end that. From here, arms just come in front, and you'll bend and straighten the elbows. And then as though we were making little circles, you'll make circles. And then go the other direction. Okay, and then we're done with that. Make little fists again, and like you were revving up a motorcycle. About 5 to 10 of these. Okay, last one. Turn the palms to face the sky, and now you're going to create circles with your wrists. And ideally, we're only circling at the wrist, so our elbow is not moving here. We're just isolating it in our wrist. And then go ahead and switch directions. Fantastic. Okay, open and close the hands. Shake out the wrists. Okay, and last thing, Sandy calls this, I don't know, Scarface or Al Capone, but you're going to bring your hands onto the top of your chest. You push down onto your chest, you reach your face up, you open your mouth. We'll find a nice little stretch on our neck. And it feels like you're sending your chin up. And then from here, you're going to push a little bit on your chest and round through your upper back just to feel what that feels like. So we're going to do a lot of spinal articulations a little bit later as we get into our core work. And so this is just sort of setting the stage for us to be able to do that. You just notice what the up and down feels like as you find a little bit of extension, a little bit of flexion. Okay. Once you feel balanced between that, you'll go ahead and come to center. And then we're going to crawl ourselves forward. Now at this point, we're going to make our way onto our backs. So we still have a few more joints to articulate through, but we want to lay down with this strap so it is just below the bottom tip of our shoulder blade. So your head will be in front. You'll bend your knees, you'll plant your feet on the floor, and the strap or the theraband is right below that. And then once you find yourself on your back with your knees bent, we're just going to find our hands on the top of our pelvis, and you'll make a little triangle. So your index fingers point toward your pubic bone, the thumbs probably will touch. And then when you inhale, we'll find an anterior pelvic tilt. So you'll arch your low back, your fingertips will go forward. It'll feel like your low back will come away from the floor. And then as you exhale, you'll rock the other way. So you'll feel like the fingertips lift and the thumbs soften. And you'll do about 4 or 5 of those. Our bum doesn't actually leave the floor. We're just rocking over our pelvis, going a little bit forward and back, anterior and posterior pelvic tilt. Fantastic. I'm going to take one more. From here, you'll find yourself into center, and then imagine that for some reason there's a marble in between your fingers. I want you to see if you can roll that marble to your right, up towards your face, towards the left, and then down towards your fingertips. And so we're finding a little bit of a rotation or a circle, if you will, in the pelvis. And we'll do about 4 one direction. Okay. And then after you've done 4 one direction, you'll come to center and then you'll switch directions. So now going to the left, towards your thumbs, to the right, down towards your fingers. I used to do these a lot in Pilates, mostly because it gave you a sense of awareness of when you were moving and when you weren't. And so you're just noticing what this feels like to let the pelvis move. All right, it should be about 4. Let's go ahead and come to stillness here. Draw your right knee to your chest, interlace your hands at the back of your right thigh. And I want you to just create 4 or 5 little circles with the thigh bone in the hip. And you'll notice that when you're doing this here, your pelvis is probably rocking a little bit. It's probably making a little bit of that circle that we just made. And if so, just notice how that feels. After you've done 4 or 5 one directions, switch to the direction of your circles. You're just paying attention, what's happening in the breath. How does this feel in the body? Okay, let's go ahead and find ourselves into stillness. Now you'll inhale and straighten your right leg, and then exhale, bend the knee. And you've got 4 or 5 of these. So I am not so concerned with what this looks like. I don't care how high your leg is. I do want you to slow down though, so that your breath is moving. Okay. And then just like we did with our elbows, I want you to create a little circle. In ballet, we would call this a rond de jambe en l'air. So you're going to create a little circle. It's not a big circle. It's a circle more at the knee. And we'll do about 3 one direction and then switch directions. Little circle. It's more like an oval, I should say. It's not really a circle. I guess it's more of an oval. Okay, and the next time your right leg is straight, go ahead and keep it there. And then you'll flex and point your foot. And again, we're just finding joint articulations to start. Notice how this feels. You've got about, I don't know, two more pointing and flexing. And then if you'd like, you'll start to make some circles with that right ankle. And again, notice if your circle is a circle or if it's like an oval or maybe it's some unknown identified shape at this point. Go ahead and switch directions if you haven't. Okay. Once you feel about balance between the sides, go ahead and come to stillness. Now push your right thigh into your hands, kick up through your right heel, flex through your right foot. And some of you will stay here. Some of you will extend your left leg long beneath you. And you can pause and you can breathe here for just a couple of breaths, noticing what you notice. From here, let's start to bend the right knee. Draw the right knee into your chest. Little half apanasana, half wind relieving pose. And very gently bend the left knee. Press the right ankle over the top of the left thigh. Flex through the right foot and take figure 4 here. So Sukhi Randrasana. And again, you might choose to stay. You might thread your hands through the hole and grab the back of your leg. You might choose to rock a little bit right to left, but pay attention to what you're noticing opening in the body, how the breath is working. Fantastic. Very gently release the left foot, draw the right foot next to the left. Take a moment to notice if you observe anything different between your right and left side. And then as you're ready, you'll draw the left knee into the chest. And again, we'll start at the top. So you'll make some circles with the left thigh bone into the left hip. And just notice if anything feels different or unique on this side. Okay, after you've gone 4 or 5 one direction, switch the direction of your circles. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. You're feeling how that feels. What's happening in the pelvis as it rolls around. All right, once you're balanced between that, you'll come to stillness and then you just bend and straighten that left leg. So inhale to straighten the leg and exhale to bend. You've got about 4 of these. Okay. And then you'll find your rondejam on layers. So little circles at the knees. Thigh is still bending and, or rather, leg is still bending and straightening, but you're creating a little oval, if anything. Okay. After you've done 3 each direction, you'll just keep your left leg lifted and then flex and point through the foot, or rather, I guess, through the ankle, plantar and pointer flexion. And then once you've done a number of those, go ahead and take some circles at the ankle. And just pause and breathe. All right, switch the direction of your circle if you haven't already. Nice work. And then we'll find stillness. So flex through that left foot, kick the heel up, press the thigh into the hands. You may keep the right leg long or keep the right leg bent. It's totally up to you, but you'll just take a couple of breaths here. Fantastic. From here, bend the left knee into the chest and just notice what that feels like, half apanasana. And then when you're ready, bend the right knee, plant the right foot on the floor, cross the left ankle over the top of the right thigh, flex through the feet, and draw the knees towards your chest for Sukhi Randrasana figure 4. And again, you might be still. You might bring your hands through the whole of your legs and grab the back of the right leg. You might shift a little bit right to left. It's totally up to you, but just pay attention. All right. From here, last little mobilization thing. Lower the right foot, lower the left foot, open your feet wider than your hips, maybe even wider than your mat, and let your knees fall in towards each other. Keeping your feet on the floor, open your knees as wide as they'll go, and then exhale, let them come back towards each other. And you'll just do 4 of those. So inhaling, opening and widening the knees, and exhaling, drawing the knees back towards each other. Okay. All right, last one. Next time your knees come together, let's go ahead and keep them there. And by this, I mean keep your right knee pointing to the left and let your left knee fall to the left. And then you'll notice that as both knees are now going to the left, you might reach down through your tailbone towards your left knee, and then your pelvis spins a little bit more towards your left. Then reach your right hip back towards the right until it comes to the floor. It pulls your right knee up, it pulls your left knee up, and come back to that internal rotation. And then we'll try that to the other side. So now your left knee is pointing towards the right. Let the right leg fall to the right. And then you'll allow your tailbone to reach down towards your left knee. When you're ready to come out, the left hip comes back to the floor. The left knee lifts just a bit. The right knee comes back through the midline. And you'll do that one more time on your own. So we're just isolating the internal and the external rotation of your hips. And you'll notice that how, or the thigh bones rather, you'll notice how that impacts what's happening in your hips and your pelvis. All right, last one. So knees are now going to the right leg falls towards the right, the left knee reaches or pelvis reaches to the left knee, and then the left pelvis comes back to the left knee lifts a little bit, and the right knee comes back to center. Great. All right, go ahead and walk your feet back so they're hip distance apart. And then from here, walk your feet together, widen your knees. So we did this last week. This is where we start our strength work. So you're going to push down through the inner edges of your feet with your knees wide, then lift your hips. Once your hips are lifted, start to slowly drag your thighs towards each other until they touch. And slowly is really slowly. And then once you get your legs towards each other, squeeze for a breath or two, and then slowly lower your pelvis down. Once the pelvis touches, widen the knees, and you're going to do that 3 more times on your own. So push through the feet, lift the hips. Once your hips are high, slowly draw the legs towards each other until you feel your adductors come online, and then the backs of your glutes. Once your legs are touching, hold for a breath or two, and then lower your pelvis back down to the floor. Great. All right, so Steve, keep your feet glued together. And then keep the soles of the feet on the floor. Yep. And then you only open your knees as wide. Yep, that's good. Now lift your hips. Now slowly draw the legs together. Ha ha. Yep, much harder. Make sure your left leg is working as fast as your right. There we go. Okay. And you'll do one more on your own. Roberta, keep the inside edges of your feet pressing down. Yep. And then your left leg has to come in a little bit faster too. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. Press, then slowly lower down. Fantastic. Now, at this point, let's go ahead and lower down after you've completed your 4 sets. Separate your feet hip distance apart, and then grab your band or your strap or whatever underneath you. And again, we want to make sure that it is underneath your shoulder blades. So you're just going to reach out wide. So Barbara, you were good. You'll reach out wide, and then you're going to pull the strap up towards the sky. And I want you to make sure it's behind your lowest ribs so that you can start to push your back ribs into the mat, into the floor as you reach up through your arms. Now, notice what's happening at your pelvis. I bet for most of us, our pelvis has tucked under just a little bit into a posterior pelvic tilt. See if you can arch your back just a little bit so your pelvis feels neutral, just like it did when we had our triangular hands on our pelvis. Now, without moving your pelvis, without moving your front ribs, draw your front ribs in a little bit more and reach your arms up. Now lift your left leg, knee bent, parallel to the floor, and lift your right leg, knee bent, shin parallel to the floor. Now again, pull up through your strap, pull your front ribs into your back ribs into the floor, check in with your pubic bone. Pubic bone has to come forward just a little bit. On your next in-breath, reach your right toes forward to touch the floor. Don't let your pelvis change. Don't let your ribs change. And then exhale, come back through center. Inhale, left leg reaches to the floor. Don't let the pelvis change. Don't let the ribs change. Exhale, come back to center. Great. You get to do 10 of these. And you can make this harder by straightening the leg that you're lowering. You can make this harder by moving slower. You can make this harder by continuing to make sure that before you move, you check in with your pelvis. So, Steve, arch your low back just a little bit more. So we're trying to find a neutral pelvis. So before we were working a lot with finding a lot of mobility in the joints. Now we're finding stability. You're noticing that you can't move your front ribs or your hips as much. We're trying to keep that stable as we gesticulate through our legs. Ah, good control there, Barbara. Nice, Sandy. Nice, Robin. Nice, Roberta. And Roberta, you can make that harder if you want by moving your foot a little further away from you. Awesome. And after you've done a total of 10, you're going to come to center. You're going to release your legs or your feet down and just take a moment to breathe and see how that went. Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How bad was that? Thumbs up was it was good. Thumbs down, that was hard. We got a mix. Got it. Okay. Cool. This next one you're not going to like. Go ahead and open your arms out and release the strap. So we don't need to worry about that. Now we're going to find what in Pilates we call dead bug. So you're going to bend your knees again. Your shins are parallel to the floor. Great. And then we're going to reach both our hands up to the sky because we're dead bugs. Yep. Okay. Now this is where this is going to be a lot harder. And I'm sorry in advance, sort of not sorry. Bring your right hand to the top of your left thigh. Right hand, top of left thigh. Flex through both of your feet. Keep reaching up through your left arm. Now I want you to kick your knee into that hand and push your hand into that knee. Now you'll notice here that you can start to feel engagement on the front of that left hip. Now draw your front ribs into your back body and see if you can keep your spine neutral. Some of you will stay right here. Some of you will want to make this harder. So you'll inhale and you'll lift your left arm alongside your ears and your right leg straight. And ideally, we're going to find a 45-degree angle because if you go any more than that, it's really hard. And then you'll exhale and you'll come back to center. Now you'll switch sides. So both arms up to the sky like happy little dead bugs. Cross your left hand to the top of your right thigh. Push your hand into your thigh into your hand. And then when you're ready, you'll inhale and send your right arm over your head, your left leg long. You'll pause there for a breath cycle as you kick into your hand and your knee, and then you'll exhale and you'll come back to center. Great. Switch side. You get to do a total of 10 of these. And just as a heads up, if you do it slowly, it makes it harder because your brain has to work. We're trying to stabilize the core as you gesticulate the body because in reality, like what's the point in building strength if it's not used in movement, right? We all want to move. That's what we're doing. All right. And we want to slow down. Slow down. So push, Robin. Yep. Great, Robin. Keep that connection. Now extend your left arm and your right leg. And it doesn't have to go super low. That's great. And then you check in with your front ribs. And then you come back through center. Yay! All right. And after you've done a total of 5 sets, so 10 on each side, you'll come to center. You'll relax for a moment. Nice control there, Barbara. Yep. And then we're going to find ourselves. Oh, some of you are still going. Look at that go. All right. Let's go ahead and come to stillness. Let's find ourselves rolling to a side, and then we'll come up to sit for a momentary interlude. We're going to take our strap off and move it off the mat. And then how bad was that? That was great. Never want to do that again. Sandy. Okay, fine. We'll never do that again. All right. We're going to grab our blanket now. And at this point, I am not so concerned with how you fold it. I just want you to create something that's like a pillow underneath your head. So maybe you just fold it over a little bit. Maybe you take an actual meditation cushion. You can use a block. I'm not going to encourage that because of what I'm going to make you do. It may not feel so good to have a block, but something a little softer would be great. And then you are going to lie down on your side. And for just kicks and giggles, we'll say our right arm is underneath. I'm going to put mine up because I'd rather have more support under my head. Right arm is underneath, left arm is on top. Cool. Once we find ourselves on our side, our left leg, that's our top leg, is going to come forward. We're going to extend our right leg underneath you. And then our right hand is going to touch the top of our left thigh. Cool. We're doing a rotation here that I found to be a lot of fun. I learned this from Julia. Julia. This is a former dancer person. So our left hand is going to come forward. We're going to make a giant circle with our left hand. Our left fingertips ideally stay on the floor the whole time. So when you inhale, you'll start to sweep your arm up and over your head. You'll find a spot where you're like, oh my God, my arm doesn't want to go. So you'll pause and you'll breathe there. Once you feel like your mind has relaxed a little bit and your body's open to it, you'll start to continue to rotate and draw your left hand back behind you until you find yourself in a twist. And then once you find yourself there, you'll breathe. And then you'll exhale and you'll reverse the course of your direction, coming back to that starting spot. And we're going to take 4 of these, and we're pinning our left knee to the floor so that we're finding a rotation through our thoracic spine. So our thoracic spine is not so great at extension and flexion. So that's our cats and our cows. It's supposed to be pretty darn good at rotation. So that's what we're doing here. We're rotating. And we're ideally taking it out of our lumbar spine by keeping our pelvis fixed in this orientation. Awesome sauce. So I'm on my 3rd one. Of course, as Roberta knows, I am not counting at all. So I hope you are just enjoying the ride as you breathe and move. And we want to see if we can try to keep, so Robin, you can let your whole rib cage roll so that you can keep that left hand in contact with the floor. There you go. Awesome sauce. Nice there, Barbara. Good, Sandy. And Sandy, actually hold on to your leg. Part of the trick is holding on to that top leg. Yep. Because then it doesn't let your pelvis move. And then you'll notice it changes what's happening in your shoulders and your ribs right about there. Yep. And then after you've done 4, you'll come back through center. You'll pause on your back and just notice if you notice anything between your right side and your left side. And then when you're ready, you'll make your way to the other side. So now your left arm is underneath. Your right leg will be on top. Oh, I appreciate that, Barbara. That's very nice of you. Um, and then your right leg is, there we go. Cool. So now our right arm is on top. Our left knee is, sorry, let me just do that because I can't talk to you and not do that. Okay. So you're holding on to your right leg. Your right arm is the circling one. And just go ahead and try that as you're ready. And you're just going to notice what you notice. I notice that when my right hand comes above my head, there's a point where it does not want to rotate in the chest. And so you just pause there for a moment and then you continue. So Steve, can you let your right leg be straight? That's the bottom leg. There we go. It's just to fix the pelvis. Yep. And then when you go up and overhead, pause right about there. You notice that your hand skips away from the floor. See if you can just breathe into the ribs and then possibly continue along the circle once the body decides to go along. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. Yep, good, Roberta. Keep the pelvis fixed. Awesome. And after you've done a total of 4, I think we've got about 1 more, you just come onto your back and you'll pause. Great. Nice, Robin. Nice work, guys. All right. From here, let's go ahead and roll over to a side and then find yourself up to hands and knees. Once you find yourself in hands and knees, I want you to find your Halloween cat. So you'll round through your spine. Happy, happy, happy Halloween, cat. Round through your spine. There we go. Now, this one is weird. I'm not going to lie. You're going to round through your spine more than you think is possible. And we've done this before, but never in this fashion. We're going to articulate through the spine going into cow, but we're going to do it bone by bone, starting at your pelvis and trying to keep your chin to your chest as long as possible. So when you're ready, you'll start to lift your tailbone. And then you'll find that anterior pelvic tilt once again. And then you'll move through your lumbar spine. And we're going bone by bone. And then you'll notice that you still try to keep your chin to your chest as we now start to move through our lower thoracic spine. So those are the floating rib area. And then you're starting to move through maybe the middle thoracic area and then the upper thoracic area. And then, eventually you get to your cervical spine, but you still want to keep your chin to your chest. And then eventually you have to lift your head, but it's only because you have no other choice but to lift your head because you've finally gotten into extension. Fantastic. And then once you've finally gotten into that point, you're going to start this again, but now you're going to curl from your tailbone. So keep your head lifted as much as you can. And then you slowly drop the tailbone and then you lift the lowest part of your low belly away from the floor. And then you go through the lumbar spine, finding flexion, and then your thoracic spine, and then your middle thoracic, and then your upper thoracic, and then, oh God, then your cervical spine, and then eventually your head has to drop to the floor. Great. You'll do that 2 more times on your own. And we're really, again, this is priming the pump for something that I'm going to make you do later. And it's based upon the articulation of the vertebra. We're finding that mobility to find the strength that will come momentarily. And you just notice what you notice as you do that. Now, I'm giving you a heads up telling you why I'm making you do this awkward thing, but in life, we don't get those heads up. Wouldn't it be fantastic if somebody said, this thing that you really don't like doing right now has a purpose? The purpose will be X. We don't get that in life. I wish we did. That would be fantastic. But maybe it would take out the joy and the pleasure and the mystery of it if we did. All right. Once you've finished your next one, so you've done a total of 4, you're going to come to a neutral spine and then we're going to change course. Great. All right. All right. Good job, guys. Okay, this one is not going to be fun either. Let's go ahead and lower our forearms down to the mat. And we want to make sure our forearms or elbows specifically are in line with our shoulders, if not a little bit closer to our shoulder or closer to our knees. So they're a little further back than one might ordinarily want. And then we want to make sure that our knees are directly underneath our hips. Okay, from here, bring your right hand to your low back, just like we did earlier in our practice. Now you'll notice here that with your left forearm down, I want you to start to push your left forearm down and you'll notice your left armpit starts to float up and you'll feel your serratus anterior muscles come online. Once you feel that happen, you'll start to pull your belly in on the right side and maybe rotate your chest a little bit towards your right. Now it's not going to go far, maybe 30 or 40 degrees, not much. And then you'll inhale and unwind and you'll come back through center. And we'll do that 2 more times. So first thing you're going to do is just push down into your left elbow. The left armpit floats up. Once your head feels like it lifts, you scoop the belly on the right side and you rotate your rib cage towards the right. And then you'll inhale and come back through center. And then again, exhale, push down into the left elbow. The left armpit floats up. You then rotate towards the right. And then inhale, gently unwind. Go ahead and lower the right forearm down and we'll switch sides. So I notice when I do that, I feel a lot of engagement on the bottom arm. And so we'll see what happens on this side. So again, the right elbow is a little bit back behind you, if not directly underneath your right shoulder. Left hand comes to your left hip. First things first, push down into your right forearm. Notice the right armpit lift. The head will lift a little bit and then rotate the ribs towards the left. Inhale and slowly unwind. All right, again, exhale, push down into the right forearm. Right armpit lifts, scoop the belly on the left side and rotate the ribs to the left. Inhale, come back through center. Last time, push down into the forearm, lift up through the armpit, wrap the left low belly in and rotate the ribs to the left. And then inhale, unwind. Fantastic. Go ahead and release that. For a moment, we're going to just curl your toes under and sit yourself back for toe squat. I know that's not really a reprieve, but we'll see how that goes for just a couple of breaths. And you just notice what that feels like. Thumbs up, thumbs middle, thumbs down. How bad was that? I got a thumbs up. Isn't it amazing what it does to the arm? Great. All right. Let's come forward onto hands and knees again, and you're going to find yourself in downward facing dog for just 2 or 3 breaths. We haven't really done anything to do anything with the leg, so I want you to slowly bend your right knee and just feel what's happening in your left thigh, sorry, left hamstring, left back of the leg. And then once you've noticed what that feels like, you'll slowly bend the left leg, straighten the right leg, and just notice what's happening there. And again, we're just taking a couple of moments to breathe and to pause and to see what we notice. Great. Fantastic. All right. Let's go ahead and inhale and come forward to hands and knees. And then you're going to lower yourself all the way down onto your belly once again. We're going to take one more stretch before I make you do some strength work. Some of you might choose to put a blanket or a pillow or a block underneath your head. I've done this many times with you guys without having it, but it's interesting the way that the sensations change with having a little bit of support underneath your head. Okay, now we're going to cactus our elbows out and make 90-degree angles. Let's go ahead and look towards our left. So our right elbow is bent behind us. We're going to stack our left hand underneath our left shoulder and start to roll towards our right. And with the right elbow bent, we're not going to get very far. Barbara, slide your right elbow more towards your right so it stays at a 90-degree angle. So there you go. Yep. And we're looking for something across our right pec muscles, maybe even your delts, depending upon how your body is built. And you'll just notice what you notice there, just pausing and breathing and pausing and breathing and saying, hello, right side of my chest. And then once you've had enough of that, you're going to come back through center. Again, bend the left elbow at a 90-degree angle. Look towards your right, step your right hand underneath your right shoulder, and then start to roll towards your left. And again, we're paying attention to what we feel happening in our left chest, left delts, maybe pec region, armpit region. Just pause and breathe. Awesome sauce. When you're done with that, you'll come back through center. You can go ahead and remove that blanket for the time being, or maybe leave it there if you want. I'm not so concerned with that. And then you'll bring your hands to your hips. From here, let's go ahead and hug all the muscles around the bones of our right leg. Lift your right leg up and back. Yep. And then you'll exhale and lower that down. And then do the same thing on the left. And then lower it down. And you'll do 2 more times on each side. And I really want you to just notice what's happening to your pelvis, its relationship to the floor as you lift and lower that leg. And then notice what parts of the pelvis. We're starting to focus now on what's called your transverse abdominals, what they're doing. Okay. Awesome sauce. And after you've done a total of 3 sets, so 6 total, you'll go ahead and pause. Awesome. Bend your right knee, grab your right ankle with your left or right hand, whichever one feels better to you, maybe even both. And just take a little bit of a quad stretch. And then once you've had enough of that, you'll switch and you'll try it on the left side. And again, we just want to take our time. We want to pause. We want to breathe. Great. And then gently release that. Extend your right arm in front of you and then roll over onto your right side. Okay. Now from here, we're going to bend our knees and we want to make sure that our hips and our shoulders and our heels are in one line. So you bend your knees. Your knees are probably going to come forward. Just feel what that feels like. And then I want you to bend your right elbow and hold your head with your hand. It's a little having a lazy day at the beach. Great. Just notice what you notice happening in the body in terms of points of contact on the floor. Check in with your top hip and notice if your top hip is really stacked on top of the bottom hip or not. Cool. I'm about to make this a lot harder. Let's go ahead and come up onto our forearm. So your right forearm is now underneath you. We're going to turn our right hand a little bit on a diagonal and then sneak your right elbow back so it's underneath your right shoulder. Now, draw your knees back so your elbow, your hips, and your knees are in one long line. Your left hand is going to come in front of us. We're going to need that for support. I'm not going to lie. So your left hand is going to come in front of you and you're going to hold on to that or push down into that. Now, just like we did a few moments ago when I was making you push your elbow into the floor, you're going to push your right elbow into the floor until you feel your right armpit float up to the sky. Then you're going to push down into your right knee until your hips come off the floor. Cool. Now, notice what's happening in that top hip. Your left hip most likely came back. Draw it forward, which is why we have that left hand in front of us. Push down into your right knee, push down into your right elbow, engage your obliques on the right side, and then maybe you float your right arm up. Maybe you don't, but we don't want our pelvis to tip. And if your pelvis is stable and you're like, yeah, Jessica, this is easy, maybe you float your top leg off the bottom leg without letting your pelvis shift. Draw your front ribs in and back and lift your head in line with your spine. There we go. Fantastic. And we'll breathe here for 3. You push down into the right arm and the left knee for 2. For 1, fantastic. Go ahead and lower down. Let's switch to the other side. Okay, so easy peasy one first. So you're just laying there and you're like, yeah, this is fantastic. This is fine. Notice how that feels. So your shoulders, your hips, and your ankles are in one line. That's great. I like the beach pose. Now let's make it a little harder. So we're going to draw our left forearm to the floor, left elbow underneath our left shoulder. Then slide your knees back. So now your knees, your hip, and your elbow are in one long line. Bring your right hand in front of you. Now, again, push down into your left elbow until you feel your armpit lift. And this time, I want you to see if you can draw your front ribs in first before you push down into your left knee to lift your pelvis up. Fantastic. Now, see if you can keep pushing down into your left elbow, keep pushing down into your left knee, and then draw your right hip forward so this stays parallel. And if you've got all that going on, you're like, fantastic, maybe you float your right arm up. And then if you'd like, you keep pushing down to the left elbow, keep pushing down to the left knee, maybe you float the right leg up. And you pause and you breathe and notice if that right hip came back. Notice if your ribs started to splay or if you can lift your head. We breathe for 3. We breathe for 2. We breathe for 1. Fantastic. Lower down. All right, go back to the first side. Okay, so you have the option of repeating option number 2, or we're going to try a third option here. So again, make sure you've got that angle of the right hand. The right elbow is underneath the right shoulder. Your knees and hips and elbow are in one long line. And we'll just start with that left hand in front of us. Again, push down into the right elbow. Draw the front ribs in, push down into the right knee, lift the hips high. Draw your top hip forward so the pelvis actually stays square. Scoop your front ribs in and back, and then maybe you float your left arm up. Now from here, we can happily stay here. You can maybe lift that top leg, maybe not. Our challenge is going to be to find that rotation that we found on our forearm. So you're going to see if you can scoop your left arm underneath you to maybe touch the floor behind you. And then inhale and come back up. Meanwhile, we're going to do that 2 more times. We're not letting our left hip come with us. So the left pelvis is coming forward. So we're finding our obliques. We're finding all of our transverse abdominals just a little bit. Well, not really the transverse abdominals. These are just our internal and external obliques. We'll do 1 more, and then we'll find our transverse abdominals. Fantastic. And then go ahead and lower down. Let's try the other side. All right. So option number two again, or we're going to try the third option. So again, we've got it angling with that left forearm, left elbow slightly underneath our left shoulder. And then we put our right hand in front, our knees and our hips and our elbow are one line. Now push down to left elbow, lift armpit up, push down into left knee, lift left hip up. Now draw front ribs in and back, draw your right hip forward, and maybe we float up through that right arm and happy to stay here. Or maybe we rotate underneath, drawing our right hand back behind us, and then we inhale and we come back up. And you've just got three. And we ideally don't want to let our pelvis shift. So we're trying to keep that in motion or in stillness as we're moving everything above it. Nice work. And after you've done three, you just go ahead and come back to center and you lower down. Nice work, people. All right. Make your way onto your belly. Okay. All right. So we're going to find ourselves in Sphinx pose. So hopefully our backs are okay enough for us to try this. We'll find ourselves in Sphinx pose. We'll separate our hands about shoulder distance apart, and we're just going to take a couple of breaths here first. So I want you to engage your leg muscles again, like we did when we lifted and lowered them. So the legs are active, the feet are pushing down. And some of you will just stay here, and you'll just drop your right ear to your right shoulder. And you'll say, "Hello, Scalenes. This is nice. I like you." And then maybe you'll come back through center, and maybe you'll go dropping the left ear to the left shoulder. And again, just pausing here and breathing and be like, yeah, this is fantastic. Maybe you'll just stay here. All right. So our next option is some of you will choose to do exactly what we just did. You'll go back and forth. You'll stay here. You'll be fine. Some of you, we're going to move on. So we're going to start to add in a bunch of the things that we've been doing. So you're going to start to tuck your chin to your chest. And then I want you to start to look towards your belly button. You'll notice at some point you have to start to push down into your elbows, and then your armpits are going to lift. And then you keep trying to look at your belly button, but it's so far down. And then you try to look at your pelvis, and you lift your pelvis as you push down into your elbows. Fantastic. And then once you've gotten to that point, you'll start to feel some shaking, and you're like, yeah, Jessica, I don't like this. And so you'll start to lower your pelvis back down. You'll start to articulate through your spine, your vertebra, and you'll come back to that Sphinx pose. And we're going to do about 4 of those. So as you're ready, you just start to tuck your chin to your chest. You start to look towards your navel. At some point, you notice you have to push down into your elbow forearm things to lift up through the armpits and the shoulders. And then you can come all the way into your spinal flexion. Now, here's where our transverse abdominals are getting their workout. And then when you're ready, you slowly come back down. I said 4. I'm going to only make you do 3. These are hard. So you'll just notice what you notice. And when you get to the height of your flexion of the spine, just take a couple of breaths there and breathe and notice what that feels like. Yep. Nice. And then once you're done, you come down. Nice control there, Sandy. And you rest for a breath cycle or 2. And once you've taken 1 or 2 breath cycles there, you're going to make your way back to downward facing dog and just feel what that feels like. And when you find yourself in your downward facing dog, just notice if anything feels different. We've done some stuff to wake up the core. We've done some stuff to stabilize and integrate the shoulder joint. We haven't really done so much with the legs, but notice if that gives the shape a little bit more ease or stability. And for most of us, let's try bending our knees for today. Find that anterior pelvic tilt. So it feels like your pubic bone reaches up and back. And then notice, yeah, there you go, Steve. If you can push down through the hands and the shoulders even more, and then maybe straighten your legs. If not, no worries, doesn't matter. Just paying attention to what's happening in our trunk, our core. A lot of our movement, both physically as well as metaphorically, needs to come from a stable center. And sometimes we have to move to figure out what that center is, but other times we really have to hone in. We have to tone in. All right, let's go ahead and lower our knees down. And then can I have you all turn profile so I can watch your spine? So turn sideways 90 degrees. Okay. Oh, that's nice, Robin. You took your whole mat. Okay. And then from here, the task, the reason I want to see this is because this is going to be harder than what we normally do just because of what's normally happening. So we're going to find a bird dog, but we want to make sure that you keep that interior pelvic tilt that you have right now and you hug your front ribs in and back. So when you're ready, go ahead and inhale and extend your right leg forward and your left arm back. So opposite arm and leg. Yep. Now all of us push down into our bottom arm until your armpit floats up. Yep. Draw your front ribs in and back towards your spine. Yep. Now see if you can lift your low back away from the floor just a tad as well. Yep. Nice job. And when you're ready, lower the hand, lower the knee. Go ahead and switch sides. So now we've got the left arm going forward, the right leg back. And again, we want to push down into our bottom arm until our armpit floats up, the serratus anterior comes online. And then we draw our front ribs into our back body like we did at the very beginning of our practice. We lift up through the inner thigh and we lift up through our low back. Great. Awesome sauce. Lower down. Cool. So this next one has two options. Option one is to bring your hand, instead of lifting it, it will come to your low back. Option two is to crunch the knee and elbow underneath each other. I would encourage the hand on the low back because it makes it easier to do this, but you do whatever you want to do. Okay, so we'll extend our left leg back and maybe our right arm forward or the right arm to our low back. Now, without changing your pelvis, draw your knee towards your chest. Without changing your pelvis, draw your knee towards your chest. Yep. And then go ahead and send it back. And you've got 3 of these. So this is one of those things that, again, we're trying to find movement while also finding stability. So those of you that like to run, this is great for you. Those of us that like to walk, this is fantastic for us. So you just pause. And after you've done 3, there you go, Robin. You go ahead and release and you try the other side. And it's just really about trying to keep the pelvis stable. Yep, so there you go, Roberta. Yep, keep that. And then see if not letting the pelvis round a little bit. So see that, keep that there even as the leg comes in. Yep, 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 yep. Keep going, keep going. You got it, you got it, you got it. Yep, there you go. Harder, right? Yeah, all right. There you go, Barbara. Yep. And if you want to use opposite elbow, just don't let the spine round when it comes in. There you go. There you go. Yep. Okay, and after you've done 3, you go ahead and release. Find yourself in a downward facing dog. Feel what that feels like now. Uh, what, Sandy? Oh yeah, turn normal orientation. You're right. I don't need to see your profile anymore. That looks good, Robin. Looks very stable. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and lower our knees down. Last little stabilizing thing before I put it all together. We'll see what it feels like. So sit down on your butt. Extend your legs in front of you. Grab your theraband. This is the one that I said I did not like very much. So we'll see how you guys do with it. We're going to extend our left leg out to the left, and we're finding ourselves in Janu Shirshasana. And the theraband goes around our foot. So right knee bends in, left leg is straight, theraband goes around our foot. And then we're going to bring our arms in front of us, roughly in line with our shoulders. And just like we made that motorcycle hand at the beginning, that's how you're holding on to your strap. or your theraband rather. Now, this is what makes this shape or this position hard. I don't want you to pull with your arms. I want you to pull with your core. So our arms may not go anywhere, but we're engaging our right obliques. So we're going to inhale and lift tall. And then as you exhale, engage your obliques and see if you can rotate your rib cage to the right. And then come back to center. And we've got about 4 of these and go back to center. That's literally what that feels like to my body. It does not go very far. It's like, and we want to keep our arms in line with our shoulders if possible, so that we're engaging the muscles on the side of our body. Awesome. And then the next time we do this, we're just going to hold for 2 breaths. And you're really engaging on the right side of the body. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Awesome sauce. Go ahead and release. Now, draw the underside of your strap into your right hand. Actually, no, let's do that the other way. So the outside into your right hand, the inside into your left. And we're just going to take a little rotation towards your right. So this should feel nice. You just pause and you breathe and you pause and you breathe. So Barbara, the other one, left hand is down, right hand is up. Left hand is down, right hand is up. There we go. And then we'll gently release. And then we'll try that on the other side. So again, left leg bends, right leg straightens, strap around the ball of our foot, holding on like little motorcycle riders, hands roughly in line with shoulders. And then we're just going to rotate towards our left. And it's coming because we're engaging the muscles on the left side more so than because we are pulling with our arms. Yeah, that's what the body goes. Go. Okay, the next time we'll just hold there for about 2 breath cycles. And we pause and we breathe. Fantastic. Go ahead and inhale and release. So right hand is going to hold on underneath, closest to the outside edge of the right foot. Left hand is holding on top, closest to the ball of the foot of the left foot. And then you're going to lift the left arm up and you rotate to the right. So let me see what you're doing, Steve. Other way. So the strap isn't actually crossed, it's wrapped around the foot. There we go. So right arm goes down now and left arm goes up and you rotate to the right. Well, that works too. Great. And then when you're ready, you'll release that, say, done with that. Strap is done. Now we're going to put all this together in just some normal poses and see how it feels as you move through it. So remove your strap and find yourself to a downward facing dog. We're just going to do a couple of them and you'll see if you notice a difference with it. All right. So from your down dog, just feel the feet push down into the floor, the hands push down, the hips lift up. Take a couple of breaths here to draw the front ribs into the back body, to send the pubic bone up and back, and to feel the shoulders connect down into the hands. At the end of your next exhale, bend your knees and walk your feet towards your hands. Once you find yourself at the top of your space, you'll separate your feet about hip distance apart. And then just notice what it feels like to really let the head be heavy, to feel the weight of your feet push into the floor, the weight of the legs come into the feet. When you're ready, you'll inhale, slide your hands up your shins, lift your spine halfway, pause here. And then you'll exhale and fold all the way back into your thighs. Next inhalation, root through the feet, come up to stand Urdhva Hastasana, upward salute. And then exhale, lower the hands alongside the hips, soften the gaze, close the eyes. Okay, inhale, circle sweep the arms up and overhead. Draw the front ribs back as you reach up through the arms. Exhale, hinge at your hips, forward fold, heart leads, head follows. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana, send the pubic bone back, the sternum forward. As you exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, step your right leg back. Notice your low lunge. Push the palms actively down into the mat, and then step your left leg back to meet the right. Spin your heels to the left. Walk your right hand a little closer to your right or to your left hand. Stack your hips. Push down into your left hand. Lift up through the left armpit. Maybe float your right arm up. Awesome. Next, exhale. Go ahead and lower the right hand back. Come to plank pose. First time we've been here. As you're ready, lower through chaturanga all the way to your belly. From here, just lift your head, neck, and shoulders. Hover the hands. Then lift the legs, hover the legs. From here, slide your hands back 2 to 3 inches. Push down into your hands. Keep your legs straight. Come into upward facing dog. Tops of the feet push down to the floor, arms as straight as they'd like to be, heart coming through the gates of your arms. Nice work. Next, exhale, curl the toes. Make your way back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. And you just pause and you breathe. What's happening in the right side? What's happening in the left side? All the things that we do have a purpose to them. We can't always see it, but if we trust it, they'll eventually find their way. Next, in breath, raise to the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float, top of space. Nice. From there, inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, fold all the way in. Inhale, root to rise, Urdhva Hastasana. Again, find that connection between the ribs and the pelvis. And then exhale, lower the hands alongside the hips. Soften the gaze or close the eyes. Inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead. Find the connection between the feet, the legs, the shoulders, the wrists. And then exhale, fold forward at your hips again. Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms. This time, step your opposite leg back, so it should be your left leg. Notice that low lunge. Push down into the palms, and then step your right leg back, plank pose. From here, you'll spin your heels to the right. Walk your left hand closer to your right hand. Push down into your right hand a lot. Float the right armpit up. Stack the left hip, and then maybe float the left arm. Nice. When you're ready, lower the left hand back. Come through plank. As you exhale, lower through chaturanga dandasana. Again, inhale into the cobra pose. Then find yourself into the locust pose, so lifting the legs. Slide your hands back and inhale into upward facing dog. Awesome. Exhale, downward facing dog. 3 breaths. From here, let's go ahead and bend our knees, lower the knees to the mat. Keep your big toes touching and widen your knees as much as you want to. Super duper wide-legged child's pose. The wider you open your knees, the more adductor stretch you'll get. So stretch along the inside edges of your thighs. You can even find that you want to open your feet away from each other too, but it feels just really nice to have that super duper wide child's pose. And you just take 3 or 4 breath cycles here. Okay, from here, we'll come up. Walk your knees together, lower your forearms down onto the mat. Bring your palms to touch in a prayer shape. Your elbows are slightly inside of your knees. Round inside of your knees, inside of your shoulders. So elbows inside of your shoulders. Then tuck your chin to your chest, round through your spine like that Halloween cat. Curl the toes under, lift the hips high. So Barbara, maybe try a little wider with your elbows. And then you just take 4 or 5 breaths here. You push down through the elbows. Notice that you can push down into the elbows like we did in all those other shapes. And then see if you can send your pubic bone up and back, find that anterior pelvic tilt. And then after you've done a few of these, you'll go ahead and lower, done a few of these. After you've taken a few breaths here, sorry, Sandy, you'll lower down, find yourself in child's pose, and you just pause and you breathe. Pause and you breathe. From here, slide yourself forward onto your abdomen, and then make your way onto your back. When you're on your back, bend your knees, plant your feet firmly on the floor. With your hands alongside your hips, push down into your feet, lift your hips high for Setu Bandha Sarvangasana bridge pose. Choose where you would like your hands. Do you want the elbows bent like robots? Do you want the arms straight? Do you want to hold on to the outer edges of your mat? What I'm most concerned about is what is the connection between your feet and the floor, your glutes and your thighs. And you just take 3 to 4 breaths here. And then you notice that once you've got the feet engaged and the backs of the legs engaged, you might find that you can walk the shoulder blades underneath you even more. You might find that you can then lift the sternum up towards the chin and draw the chin down to the sternum. And you just pause and you breathe. We're aiming for mobility in our life. That is the ability to move through our full range of motion, both literally as well as metaphorically, with having a sense of strength, stability, integrity to it. When you're ready, you'll gently release your hands, you'll untuck your shoulders, you'll draw your pelvis back down to the floor. Once you find yourself here, just take a moment to settle. Some of you might want to walk your feet outside of your hips and let your knees knock in. And then from here, wrap your arms around your torso, giving yourself a hug. And you just pause, you check in and you breathe. In this shape, I invite you to ask yourself, what would feel good to me? Would my body like to stay in this resting pose? Does it need a twist, another opener, or is it ready to rest in Shavasana or Supta Baddha Konasana? You choose, and then when you take that choice, I do encourage you to move mindfully in the shape, which sometimes might mean that we speed things up. It might also mean that we slow things down. And then once you feel like you have either explored what you want to explore or you're just ready to go to Shavasana, you'll start to make your way to your final resting pose. And you do have about 2 to 3 minutes of your own. So if you're in movement, fantastic. If you're not, fantastic. Just be wherever feels good for you. And again, if you're in movement, continue to make sure you're balanced between the sides. If you're moving toward your final resting pose, I do encourage you to make sure the body is wrapped and warm. I do encourage you to make sure the body is supported. So if you need blankets, if you need clothing, if you need props, by all means, use whatever will allow your body to rest. Great. Now, when you find yourself in that final shape, whatever it happens to be for you, I do encourage you to take the first couple of moments in the shape to really get comfortable. If you need to fidget around, fidget around. If there's something that feels like it's in your energetic field, meaning like it's a couple of inches or feet, from the body and that doesn't feel good to you, you can just push that aside so it feels like the body has the room and the capacity to spread. And then you'll find yourself just noticing the sensations in the body. It might be the movement of the breath. It might be the releasing of tension, or maybe certain things just coming to your awareness. One of the things I really appreciate about my own practice is sometimes it feels like by just moving the body, by exploring something, it gives me the capacity to know myself a little bit more deeply, both physically, but as well as like energetically, emotionally, mentally, the things that come up, the things that are stirred up, the things that might just need a bit of space, the things that might need support. So as you're settling into yourself now, as you're settling into the body and settling into the breath, what is it that your practice has allowed you to become more aware of? Where is there the invitation for support? Where is the invitation for just spaciousness, ease, comfort? I'll go ahead and leave you here with you for the next few moments, the next few breaths, and I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Return your awareness to your breath. As you come back to your breath, just take a moment to check in. Notice if there's any part of you longing to linger in this shape. And if so, by all means, please stay here. When you are ready, you'll allow gentle movement to re-enter into the physical form in whatever way feels good to you. Those in stillness, again, stay as long as you'd like. Those in movement, you'll make your way to your right side and pause there for a few breath cycles. Those on the side, you'll roll your chest a bit more towards the floor. Press into your left hand and walk your spine up to sit. When you are upright, I do encourage you to sit on something, whether it's a blanket, a block, a pillow, your cushion, your feet. And then with the gaze still soft or the gaze closed completely, just take a moment to sit well, whether that means you need to remove flesh from underneath your sit bones or circle the shoulders or the neck, but just take a moment just to be. As we find ourselves at the close of this practice, it's the beginning of something new for each and every one of us. And one of the fun things about transitions is that you don't always necessarily know where it's going to go. But from a dancer perspective, from a movement perspective, one of the things I enjoyed the most when I was a dancer was the fact that the transition was all that you had. The transition was the moment that you needed to make the most important because it really connected the beginning to the end. It was the thing. And so wherever we are in this moment, can we commit fully to it, not knowing yet where we may go, and not fully ready to just discard or let go of what came before. We'll go ahead and complete our practice with a collective breath, followed by a collective Om. Bring your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Really press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of your thumbs into your sternum and then press the sternum into the thumbs. Soften the shoulders away from the ears and then gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in through the nose. Audible breath out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Draw your thumbs to your third eye. May our thoughts be clear. Draw your thumbs to your lips. May our words be kind. Draw your thumbs to your heart center. May our hearts be open. The light, the breath, the awareness that's within me honors and salutes the light, the breath, the awareness that's within each of you. Namaste.